Alrighty. Hello, everybody. Dr. Joe here, and welcome to the 15 minutes that every CS student needs on Vim to survive Linux. All right, I'm going to show you something here today that every CS student needs to know how to survive. Not necessarily master, not something to become an expert in. Don't spend the next 3 weeks customizing it until your terminal looks like the bridge of the Starship Enterprise. We just want to survive here. And that thing is going to be Vim. At some point in your computer science career, you're probably going to SSH into a Linux machine, open a config file, work inside a virtual machine, or run some Git command. And then suddenly, this thing will appear Vim. And you're thinking, okay, well, I start to try to work in this thing. I can't type anything, and nothing makes sense, and I'm just pressing keys, and maybe we somehow delete a file. And eventually, we arrive at a very important question in this process is, well, how do I even get out of Vim? And so that's what we're doing today. I'm going to give you enough Vim that if you encounter it in a Linux machine, you know what's happening. You can edit a file, save it, search it, and most importantly, escape. So let's say I have me just a little kind of dummy file here. If I open up PowerShell and I go to my downloads and I have a Vim folder here, I can list out the contents and we see that I have a main.cpp file in here. And I can open that file in Vim by typing vim main.cpp. And you see all of a sudden now I'm in a file. There's those tildes down there, but you see at the very top of the file, I have the comment there for main.cpp. Now immediately here we notice that Vim is different from something like VS Code. If I try to start typing, you'll notice things are not working as you would expect, right? And also now that comment is gone now. Right? I'm not necessarily inserting text when I type letters, and that's because one of the biggest ideas you have to understand about Vim is that it has modes. If you can understand that one idea, you probably can alleviate about 80% of the initial confusion that it comes when using Vim. So the first mode we're going to work with now is called normal mode, and that's where we're in right now. Okay, let me back out there. So normal mode is where Vim expects you to give it commands. So we can move around, we can delete things, we can copy things, we can search, we can manipulate a document. But you're not typing text into the file. To actually type text, we need to enter insert mode. And the easiest way to do that is to press I. And you see down there in the bottom left, it will say insert. And now I can type normally. So I might, end up having me some regular include files here. Right? So maybe I have iostream, or maybe I include string, for example, whatever the case may be. Maybe I have standard cout. Hello. Let me go down here. I can say int main. I can say standard cout. Hello from Vim. I could do something like that. Okay. And maybe I want to add in there we go, like this. But here's the key. When I finish typing, I need to press escape, and that will get me out of insert mode. And now I'm back in normal mode again. So if you're brand new to Vim, remember this relationship here. I want to do I to insert to start typing, and I want to do escape to stop typing and return back to normal mode where I can give further commands. That's the simple mental model here. Insert mode is for writing text. Normal mode is for telling Vim what to do with the text. Now, how do we get out of this thing? Well, first of all, I want to make sure I press escape. Okay, that makes sure you're back in normal mode. And then you type :Q and press enter. Okay. Now, that tells Vim one thing. It says, okay, the colon tells Vim you're about to give it a command, and Q means quit. Okay. Now, it may end up saying, hey, man, you could get a thing where it says, hey, you've got some unsaved changes here, and I'm not going to accidentally let you throw those away. Okay. And that's actually a good thing. If I want to save, I can say :W. Okay. And I can say that. And then you see, it says, okay, main CPP written 7 lines, 105 bytes written. Boom. And then I can say :Q like that. And then you see it gets me out, and I'm back now in my PowerShell terminal that I was before. So a few different commands here. Escape gets us back to normal mode. :Q can help us quit. :W can help us write the file we were working with. And of course, we're using the enter key as well to enter some of these commands in. Okay. Now, let's now reopen our program. I'm going to say vim main.cpp. Get me back in there. Okay. Now, Vim traditionally uses 4 different keys for movement. We have H for left. You notice I can press H and I'm moving to the left. I can use J for down, K for up, and L uh, for right. Oh, did not mean to go into enter mode there. Okay. Uh, so H goes left, and then L can go for right. And one important thing to notice here is if I am going down, you notice here I can't move left or right. Right here, I need to move up, and then I can move left and right. And the nice thing is this keeps your hands on the keyboard, right? And of course, you can use arrow keys as well. But the nice thing about that is it keeps you kind of all there in-house, okay? So that's really nice. Of course, we could use, if I need to, I can use B. That'll move me backwards 1 word, which is nice. W can move me forwards 1 word, okay? 0 takes me to the beginning of the line, which is nice. And then, of course, $ will take us to the end of the line. So you notice here we can navigate, right? The cool thing about this is that $ often means end in Unix tools and regular expressions as well. So kind of a nice little aside there. So you can start to see some ideas kind of repeating here across the Linux ecosystem, okay? Now, if I have a bigger file, there are going to be a couple commands that I'll use pretty constantly. One would be GG, not for good game, but that'll take me to the very beginning of the file. You see now my cursor is up there, which is nice. And then capital G will take me all the way to the bottom of the file, okay? So we can kind of easily do that very easily. Now, I could also jump to a particular line. Let's say I want to do line 6, so I could do 6 capital G, and you see I am now in front of the return line there, so that can move me directly there. And that's pretty handy when you're working with source code or config files, okay? Now let's look at a couple of editing commands. Remember, we're in normal mode right now. If I put my cursor over a character, let's say right here, and I press X, you see Vim deletes that character, okay? If I want to delete an entire line, I could do DD, and you see that C out line is now gone. Now that's a pretty interesting command, and you may be asking, well, why 2 Ds? We'll come back to that. If I accidentally delete something, I can undo it with U, and you see it restores that line back, okay? So remember, U is for undo. If I want to copy a line, Vim traditionally calls that yanking. I can press YY to copy the line, and then I can move somewhere else. So I'll move right here, and I can press P for paste. You see it'll paste it after that. Okay, so YY for copy, P for paste. And once you get used to these types of commands, this makes you move a lot faster. Now, another command that's extremely useful is for searching. Suppose there's a larger source file, and I want to find every place where I'm using cout. From normal mode, I can press /. You see now I'm down there in the bottom left. And I can type cout. And you see now the first occurrence is highlighted. And I can press N for next. Oops, sorry. I need to press enter first. So press enter. And then I can go in for next. And you'll notice I'm now jumping between the 2 occurrences. Okay. So that can allow me to move to the next occurrence of cout. Okay. And I can use capital N if I want to navigate backwards instead of lowercase n for navigating forwards. Okay. And that's nice because I can rapidly, in this case, move through every occurrence. So that's incredibly useful when you're examining maybe source code on a remote server. Now, the moment that Vim starts to make sense here, I want to show you a part of it that really is genuinely interesting from a computer science perspective. At first, Vim commands can look like a giant pile of arbitrary keyboard shortcuts. But there's actually a system at play here. Vim commands are often composable. They're almost like a little language in and of themselves. For example, we already know that D means delete, correct? And W means move by a word. So if I were to combine them, then I'm essentially saying I want you to delete that word. So you see I do DW and you see the ST there is gone. Okay. That's awesome. That's not really one giant keyboard shortcut at that point. That's 2 ideas that have been composed together. So delete and a movement. Let's try another one. So $sign means move to the end of the line. So if I did $, it means delete from here to the end of the line. So if I say $, boom, I just delete that whole line. And that's the moment here where Vim starts to become less about memorizing shortcuts and more about learning a language. Okay. Now, of course, commands can also take counts. For example, we saw the DD allows us to delete one line. But what if I want to delete 3 lines? Let me move up here. I can say 3DD, and you see I can just delete 3 lines like that. Okay. Likewise, if I said maybe 3J, that means I want to move down 3 lines. Okay. Or if I said 3W, let me move forward 3. Well, let me get up here so I can actually move forward 3 words. If I said 3W, that means move forward 3 words. So you start combining things, a number plus a command plus a movement. And suddenly Vim becomes incredibly expressive. Okay. All right. Now here's one of my favorites. Let's say my cursor is sitting somewhere inside of a word. I'm going to put it there in hello. And I want to replace that entire word. I could delete it manually and go into insert mode, but Vim gives us a command. I could do CIW. Now, and that looks ridiculous, right? What does that mean if nobody explains it? C is for change, I is for inside, and W is for word. So if I said CIW, it means change inside word. So what will happen is Vim will delete the word and immediately puts me into insert mode so I can type the replacement. So CIW, boom. I say, what's up from Vim? So that's a really good example of the philosophy behind Vim. We're not just manipulating words and individual characters. We're communicating intent. Change this word, delete this line, copy these 3 lines, move to the next occurrence. I'm going to hit escape to get out of insert mode. So that's nice. Now, let's make this practical. Imagine I'm connected to a Linux server over SSH, and I don't have VS Code. I don't have Visual Studio. I don't have some fancy GUI editor. I've got a terminal, and I need to fix a little C++ program here. Okay, so I can search for the line I need. Like maybe I'm looking for the line that has the main function, so I can say /main. You see, you can highlight it there, and maybe I want to move down a few lines. Okay, so maybe I go in there, and then maybe I hit insert mode. Maybe I go down a couple lines, and maybe I am saying, okay, I need to go down here, see out. We'll say fix applied, something like that. Okay, and then I could just say escape :WQ enter. And now I'm back in the shell here, which actually, let me go back. Vim main.cpp. We really need to go up here. Boom. I'm going to say, oh, I probably don't need that to be in there anymore. Boom. WQ enter. Boom. Okay. And so then, now here I could say, well, I need to do G++ main.cpp-o main. Let's just say, okay, I need to go ahead and compile this. Okay. Let's give that a second. Oh, I still have the STO. Let's go in there. Let's see. Where did I forget? Oh, yeah, here we go. There we go. So say WQ enter. There we go. Perfect. So now it's compiled, and I can say ./main. You see, what's up from Vim fix applied. I should have gone on to a new line, but you can see the benefit here. This is why I think every CS student should know at least a little Vim. You may never choose Vim as your everyday development environment, and that's completely fine. Use VS Code, use C-Line, use Visual Studio, use whatever tool helps you write good software. But if you're studying computer science, you're eventually going to encounter environments where the terminal is all you got. And when that happens, knowing 10 or 15 Vim commands is an incredibly useful skill. So I hope this was helpful. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Dr. Joe out.